And it's Dan and James talking about the Villa games.
Listeners from the post stream, welcome to the AVFC Faithful podcast. Coming at you live and direct from Playback TV again today. And it's an exciting one, James. I've been waiting for it since the end of May, but a lot of people I know, probably including yourself, have been looking forward to it since England finished their lovely Europe campaign, and the Premier League's back, baby. How are we feeling, James?
Yeah, it's great. I think I watched pretty much every game this weekend. Like everything I did revolved around watching the games. It's just so good to have Premier League football back, and particularly for us, starting with a win, and not only that, the performance.
Oh, mate, apologies to this is the beauty of live TV, I guess, is the interruption of wild animals into the stream, but. Yes, it was certainly a joy to have it back, and I was the same as you. I think I sat down at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, and then I didn't move until about 8 o'clock because I was in some sort of like post-match happy paralysis, I think we'll call it. I think we'll jump right into it. I mean, we won't. Those who have watched before will know that what we tend to do is we used to go through like the game in layered structure. I think we'll just talk about it in general today and talk about the key talking points from it. I think that's going to be a lot more enjoyable, especially in live format. Let's just start off. I think you mentioned it there with just the performance. I guess it was. I think I'll be honest. I think a lot of other fans, if there's any watching today, will probably join in and maybe agree. But I actually wasn't expecting it to be that good.
No, I wasn't. To be fair, I think because particularly the pre-season, it definitely ended with you could say a little bit of a meltdown on socials because the team wasn't quite gelling, but that was bound to happen, with the amount of new faces and some key players that had left and players returning late, etc., and just general sharpness levels. But I thought we'll grow into this season slowly, which I think we still will. I think it was in the end actually quite a good fixture for us to start with, in the sense that I don't think West Ham were quite ready either. But you've still got to give us credit. We look really good, and I kept thinking that first half, even after the stupid penalty, which we'll get onto in a bit. But I just thought, we actually looked like a Champions League club that's been there and done that, even though it's only been a season that we've been up so high. It just felt like, this is our level. This is our mentality. We come and take the initiative in these games. We apply ourselves. We apply what Uno wants, and we took the game to him for large portions of that first half, and then the decision that went against us, momentum swung, which it always does, but then we wrestled it back. I think that half time after that we were pretty fine again, really. But I suppose main talking point at first is it's a great way to start your career for Amadou Onana, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's exactly what we were missing all of last season, wasn't it? I mean, I think we scored a couple of set piece goals last season, but it was certainly something that was a clear talking point, I think, especially defensively. But yeah, I mean, it's a great run. Obviously, we are helped by the fact that he was marked by Mikel Antonio. Bailey does great holding off. I think it was Max Kilman as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, like I said, I think not just the goal as well, but his performance was. I think he was a well-deserved man of the match as well for the whole game. I was very impressed. I had a chat with a couple of people before the season. They didn't seem to think that Onana was sort of going to be that. I mean, he's not exactly Douglas Luiz, but sort of couldn't play the ball or carry the ball like Douglas Luiz could. I thought he was so assured as well. Nothing seemed to sort of phase him. There was that one stage, I think Alan Smith mentioned it in co-commentary, where he just put his foot down on the ball and had all the time in the world and picked out the passes he wanted to at times. After he scored his goal. Yeah, I was very happy with him. I mean, obviously you were really excited by the signing. If James is excited by a signing, I am, because James does a lot more than me. So I know for a fact it's probably a decent one. And it's not something we're used to watching, I don't think, as well, is having that sort of commanding presence in the midfield. But I think exactly for someone who's as big as Onana is, that's not his game, which I quite like. It's not like he's just some sort of bulldozer midfielder who's meant to just put tackles and then pass the ball sideways. He does so much more to that to his game, which I thought was really impressive as well.
Yeah, I think he's got the potential to be real good all-rounder, maybe apart from dictating tempo. That's not really his game. I think, he's a lot better on the ball than what people may have thought from his time at Everton, but you've got to contextualise that with how Everton want to play. They're quite direct, whether that means, lofted passes or just into strikers that on the ground. It was never to get on the ball, progress it constantly. It was just you play to their strengths. Whereas for us, it's going to be, we want the ball, so you've got to look after it. And as expected, he was a lot of receive the ball, turn and go. Because for a big player, he's really progressive with his ball carrying, and he's quite technical in that sense. He can wiggle out of small spaces just by not even touching the ball. The body shape is just he's really good at that. But I think what we've got him for, the ball winning that he did on Saturday was incredible. The stats that he put up were amazing, and I'll get a photo up right now because I sort of want to show the sort of confidence that we've got in the ground that he can cover and how he can win the ball back. He's just a monster at winning the ball. I don't know if you can see it yet, but if you can, these screenshots, Onana is in the middle of the pitch, and the amount of ground that he's got there to cover in between two of their forwards, he's there. So if we lose this ball, he can get out to either of them really quickly and win the ball back. And that confidence that you got in that player means that you've then got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in attack. And that often ends up in goals. And that's really key for us. And it means that Tielemans there by the referee, the ball comes out there, he can recycle or he can even take a shot. So having that presence in midfield, which we will have when Kamara is back as well, it's like gold dust. It's what the top clubs have, and it's how they can be so expansive. So we've got to, keep persevering. There'll be times where we still get caught out on transition because we do naturally leave more space. That's just how it is. Yeah. But when we've got this 3-1-6 shape when we're in attack, it's going to lead to more goals and hopefully turning more of these draws into wins.
Yeah, definitely. We'll jump straight into anyone watching. Do exactly as Dan from 17 just did, and pop anything you can into the chat because we'll be picking them out pretty much as soon as you pop them in because it's the beauty of playback.tv, I guess. Dan mentions it was a deserved win for Villa. It was a good way to start the season to carry that momentum into the Arsenal game on Saturday at Villa Park. Yeah, I'll be honest, when the fixture list came out, I had this down as a point. I hate playing West Ham. Everything about it, from the bubbles to the game, I don't enjoy a single part of it. Dealing with West Ham Central's tweets, any of it, I don't want a part of it. So to take that into the home game is inch perfect, I think, and exactly what I want. And the performance as well. We said before the game actually kicked off, I think it was on our pre-season. I said that I care about performances rather than results in the first 3 fixtures. I think up to the international break, it's all about settling into the squad, and that's a really good point actually. I'll be honest, I don't think I can say I don't think it's a legible word for me to say, but HT mentions that asks if Maatsen will probably start this weekend. That's actually a really good talking point, I think, because we're going to dip in and out to talk about the West Ham game. James, I can tell you probably got something to say about this because the left back changing that we did with Digne and Moreno is obviously now going to change to Digne and Maatsen as Moreno is going to Forest. Me personally, I wouldn't be surprised to see him start. I'm interested in what you think, though, James. Obviously, it's a different challenge, isn't it, from going against Bowen to Saka? I mean, it is a complete different level of player.
Yeah, I think this calls for Dean still, just because tried and tested in defence as much as you can against one of the top sides. I think he will be more ready defensively in the Premier League right now than Maatsen is. Maatsen came on and he was really good in both boxes against West Ham, but he was a lot fresher, and I think that could be key again against Arsenal. If the game's still tight, or if we're looking to get a goal back, having his pace down the left against a tired Ben White, maybe Saka's not tracking back as much, then I think maybe we can exploit that area then. So I personally start with Luca Dean still, but I don't think it'd be too long until Maatsen is really pushing for that starting spot. I think from what we've seen so far, it's not just his athleticism. On the ball, he's really good. I mean, the amount of times I've watched that touch for the Duran goal. It was just perfect. That's what we want. You want someone that's got that weight of pass, especially for a lofted ball like that coming in. It was beautiful. So yeah, I don't think he starts this weekend, but I think going forward, he will be close to starting.
Yeah, and obviously it will change completely as well once we start, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and obviously the Champions League. That's where we're gonna really see the rotation happen as well. AVFC Threads, it's a great another one. We're sticking to the left backs. I quite like this. For reference, that's exactly where I'd be played if I was a professional footballer, just as far away from the action as possible, but not an Unai Emery side. The thoughts on Illing Jr. leaving on loan? I think that's a fantastic idea. I don't think he really had space in the squad. I know that Emery was using him as a sort of a left 10, wasn't he, in pre-season? It's difficult because that position and left back just doesn't have enough space for him. And at his age, and with the deal we've probably got him on, it just makes sense to give him a year completely away from the squad and hopefully starting or on the bench and then being a rotation player. It's more than what he'll get for us. And it's just a very sensible business move on our part and player production. He'll want minutes, so it just makes sense as well for player welfare, I think. James, you got any thoughts on Illing Jr.?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen too much of him for us so far, but I think that the idea when we signed him was, we got something extra out of the Douglas Luiz deal in terms of you can maybe flip him for more profit in the future, or it's a succession plan for if you end up selling a Buendia, Ramsey, Rodgers, whatever it may be in the future, because you just don't know these days. So I think it was just a smart business move with the view to him getting better for either us or another club, and then we either reap the benefits on the pitch or financially. So I think it was always going to be about him getting a loan. He needs to be playing football. It's no shock. It's not a waste of a deal. I have seen some strange takes so far today about it, but it still made sense. We've got two young players out of that Dougie deal as well, and that's going to end up being financially more beneficial, hopefully, in about 2, 3, 4 years maybe. So it just made sense, and as I said, he does need to play football to progress. So him going out on loan, I would have liked personally an English club, but it'd have to be the Championship, I think, because he's only signed for us this summer, so can't go out on loan to another Prem club. But I'd have liked to have seen him in the Championship, to be honest. I think he'd do really well there. But yeah, he needs to play games.
Definitely. We'll jump back into the chat in a moment. I just want to keep pushing through onto the West Ham chat because I'm gonna get this will end up like a normal podcast where me and James end on a massive tangent and forget where we are and end up possibly repeating the same stuff. It's only fair that we talk about it. We don't want to talk about it, but we have to. The penalty incident. It's worth noting that I don't think either of us on this podcast agree with the decision. I would like to think so anyway. I think I may speak for James on that part, that it wasn't in my mind, it wasn't a very sensible decision, but it's one of those where you knew as soon as it was given, it wasn't going to get overturned. You know what the rules are. If you play the ball, there's no clear, obvious attempt that you meant to play the ball, which apparently makes sense because we're going back to the rule of intent again, apparently. And it's a shame because for all of the sort of, should we call it slander that Matty Cash gets, it's another penalty mark against his name, which he does. He has got a pretty poor record for it, but I don't think that's really his fault. He was never going to win the first header duel against Suchet. That's a complete mismatch anyway. Yeah, it's a shit. Obviously, it's a great penalty by Paqueta. He does exactly what every pretty much striker penalty taker is going to do now, which is take the world's slowest run up and hope the goalkeeper commits beforehand, and then if not, it's a lottery after that. So, obviously, James, we'll get your thoughts on it, but I mean, from me, it was a shame. Obviously, it changed the landscape of the game for the next, well, it was 15 minutes, I think, wasn't it? It was just after the half an hour mark.
Yeah. I think just touching on that, Matty Cash for the penalties, I think he's got like the most penalties given away since he joined. But you know what it is? Like, there's a couple of them that he's been unlucky with. I don't think that they've been penalties, but the problem with Cash is that he's liable to jump into a tackle. I think that's a bit of a weakness in his game. He will fall for a trick or someone that's trying to, con you out of a penalty. I think he's likely to fall for that. Whereas if you have Konsa in that position, he most likely doesn't dive in for the ball.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's still not a penalty for me. Whether you can say it's a risky move to make, he's won the ball, and then Souček's initiated the contact, putting his leg in between Cash's. Then it was never a penalty. It's just really frustrating that within half an hour on game week 1, there's a call that's just ridiculous, especially when within the first 2 minutes McGinn has his foot booted from underneath him in the box, and if Cash's is a penalty, then so's that one.
That was the open shot penalty all of last season, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's just really frustrating. I do think that Matty Cash comes in for some unnecessary hate. I think the criticism is fine. I think you can say that we can do better and we can upgrade, and I think that he's got some weaknesses in areas of his game that hold us back. But the lad, I think he won. Did he win Player of the Season for us a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, for the when he cried on the way up to the stage.
Yeah, exactly, and he scored some big goals for us. He's always put his all into playing for this team, and I respect that of everyone, and I think he's been a great servant. And if you're thinking that we signed him 3 or 4 years ago, if we're wanting 25 million plus for him, that's a good return, which clearly means he's a decent Premier League player.
Yeah.
He's probably not suited to our style now, and that's fine. I don't like some of the things that get said about him, to be fair. But back to the penalty, it is just never a penalty for me.
No, I agree with you on Matty Cash. I mean, I'm more than happy to say I'm one of the people that probably does criticise when he does stuff wrong. I do pretty much do that with every player, to be fair. It's very hard not to, I think, when you get caught up in it as well. But I'm also one that does acknowledge the fact that he's not actually a bad football player. He's just, like you said, I think he's a player that's slowly getting phased out of the system. Is slowly not matching what we're looking for in a right back. Another problem with the penalty was, of course, the fact that we didn't mention it before. We did miss 2 what I call very easy chances. That one was very easy. The second one maybe not so much. Obviously, the one that I don't think was as easy, but I think he probably is going to kick himself for a while afterwards. It's Morgan Rogers' chance. Storms through the middle of the pitch onto his left foot, and it's just too low and too close to the keeper, and it just gets palmed away. I think that's a really good chance. I was shocked. I mean, that felt after the preseason he had, that was just his bread and butter. And obviously Bailey's chance, he does exactly what you want him to do, and it makes. I get what he's trying to do, so I don't really have too much problem with the execution of it. It's just obviously it's not a great finish. I think Kilman does spectacularly to get back across as quick as he does, and then cancels out pretty much any chance he's got of hitting it across goal anyway, because it's just going to hit Max Kilman if it goes through. Yeah. But obviously, when you miss those chances, McGinn misses his, which I think still isn't. It's on his weaker foot, so you can sort of forgive him a little bit for sort of hacking at it with his right foot. But again, if we score at least 2 of those, the game's out of sight. I think for us by then, if we're 3-0 up against a Lopetegui West Ham side, you're pretty much clean through. But yeah, and then we go into halftime 1-1. Obviously, it's perfect because I think there's not much to say about the second half until we talk about the man of the moment. It's sort of poetic that one of the best podcasts I think I enjoyed last season was our 3-3. Sat in these very rooms talking about it last season, and we spoke about him there. If I just scroll up now into the chat, if I'm correct in saying it, yeah, it was HJ that mentioned it this time as well. HTJ about Duran, about him needing to stay. Watkins is obviously, he was struggling for fitness anyway, match fitness. He was obviously not match fit, and I think he mentioned in the through Villa's social state that he did have a knock after the Euros from the final game. So he obviously didn't perform great, but I still think he didn't have actually a bad game. I just think he had an okay game for what he had going through to him. Probably will be a bit upset with the chance he missed, and that's about it. But yeah, Duran was I would say he was electric because he actually wasn't. He was a little bit different to the Duran that we saw at the end of last season, I thought, where he wasn't like just passing the ball off and running through. He actually, there was a couple of times where I saw him, he came back, played the ball back to Konza, for example, and then actually hugged the right line instead. And you saw whoever was on the right would dip into the middle, and he would actually take it. He looked a lot more of a part of the machine, so to speak.
Yeah, I think he looked like he's listening more, learning a bit more. I think his hold-up play was pretty decent. He happily dropped in. I mean, he started off the move for his goal, to be fair. He dropped in on the right and then he moved. He did a nice curved run, to be fair. But yeah, he was ready to almost do the up, back and free. He'd get the ball around about the centre circle, lay it back off, and then he'd move in behind. I think that's a move that we might see quite a lot this season for us.
Yes.
But he looked like he wanted to impact the game. I think it was the perfect time for him to come on. And it's funny because I remember saying the last time that we were on that Duran, I felt that he would leave and that he would be at West Ham and that we might as well start this game 1-0 down because it was written in the stars he'd score against us. But then by the time, it looked like he was staying, I didn't think there was no other thing in my mind than he was going to score and celebrate.
Yeah.
It was just going to happen. And I mean, still, when it happened, it was still like, that's unbelievable. It was just in the script, wasn't it? And to be fair, the goal was just all round. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it's perfect. And something I wanted to chat about as well, I wanted to get into, it does link into a couple of the comments we've had. Again, I want to make it clear to everyone watching the podcast at the moment. We are live streaming the podcast now. So make sure you follow us at AVFC Faithful Pod on X or Twitter, whichever you want to call it. I don't care, just follow us because we'll be posting when we're going to go live. I hope we usually do one a week anyway. That's how we did the podcast last time. So we'll aim to be doing it now. There is no set time frame. Just check the Twitter, maybe put the notifications on and make sure you get notified. And then you can join in the chat and, and have your voice heard on the podcast. We're all about that here at the AVFC Faithful because we're all part of the Villa Faithful here. So we'll jump into it. So it links into a couple of the comments. We are going to become, I think in my mind, a rotation and substitution team. I think for all of the sort of slack that Emery got last year about doing his subs too late, I think we're starting to see why he had to do them so late was because there wasn't that many options on the bench. I mean, the changes that came on and the way they changed the game as soon as they came on, it was so perfect. I think we spoke about it before. I think I messaged you saying, obviously, the fact that you could just bring Jacob Ramsey off the bench and the fact that you can bring Emi Buendia off the bench was sort of something we just didn't dream of having last year. And now we've got that. It transforms everything we can do and everything we can sort of go forward doing it. It's a different style. You go from having McGinn there to having Jacob Ramsey. It completely changes it. Obviously, if you have Duran coming on for Watkins, it's a different style of striker. And then you change it up the midfield when we finally get that coming in. It is just, I don't want to say it's like perfect. It isn't perfect yet. I know that, but I think I saw a side by side earlier of our bench against Liverpool and our bench against West Ham, and it was just it's night and day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so much healthier, that bench is. You can bring on forward changes and change the midfield and in defence, and you don't feel too much weaker. And the different changes as well. You bring Philogene on for Bailey. You've probably got someone that's, without trying to make Bailey sound like he doesn't work hard, but I think Philogene naturally is a bit more defensive aware. I think that's just the experience he's had out on loan in the Championship. But being a right footer on that right side as well, he's quite naturally going to go to the byline and stuff like that. So, and then you bring on Ramsey, you bring on Maatsen, you bring on Duran, and you feel there's going to be a goal that comes out of these.
Yeah,
and I mean when you bring Kamara back as well, and Buendia up to speed, Mings back, it's going to be a lot better for us, when there's the games that we need to change something or even hold on to a lead. We've got more changes that we can make, and genuinely, I think that we'll be active in the next couple of weeks as well. I'd be surprised if we didn't bring in one or two, even if they were both defenders. I think it's going to strengthen us like big time. So it is nice to have a squad where you think, we can challenge on quite a few fronts here.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's a great person to go into, and the Philogene substitution made me quite happy because I thought, like you said, he did quite well when he came on as well. So I was just thinking of the fact that the idea of us having two sort of set good squads, and a healthy player base and one that, sort of players that know their part. And I tend to wonder if there's another Premier League side that could probably learn a thing or two about buying and using the appropriate amount of players into your squad base, and not just buying players for the hell of it and selling your homegrown players just to take the piss. But I don't know if it comes to mind of anyone, they can mention it. But I just feel like it would be quite smart of players and teams taking note of that. HDJ mentions about Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey is, I don't want to say it, but he could possibly have the award for like the most favorite player within this podcast. Because I mean, put it this way: there's a lot of players I sell when I play Football Manager, and he has never been one of them in my entire life. I refuse, and I don't have any players' names on the back of my shirt. He would be the only one. I love the kid, and there's no one else I'd rather see play every game. And you mentioned saying, HCJ, you say that you don't think it's long until Ramsey boots McGinn out. I think that John McGinn will be playing 3 different positions this season, and I think that he's probably more than happy to do that. And I think what you'd probably more likely see is Leon Bailey coming out the side and John McGinn playing on the right and Ramsey on the left and Rodgers up top. I think that's probably more likely than seeing, just because I think John McGinn brings a much, is so different to pretty much every other player we've got on the pitch that it alters the way that if we don't have him, then it's a bit too, I don't want to say it's too samey, because I know Unai loves his balance, but it does feel like without a John McGinn in there, we do lose a little bit of that. There's not too many players I trust with their back to goal to hold the ball off and then play it off. There's not too many I think I could definitely do it how he does it. Jacob Ramsey's so much better going direct. He's not, I wouldn't ever want to see him with his back to goal and then playing it back off. It's just so much better with the ball at his feet turning towards goal. So, but I do understand what you mean. I mean, to leave a player like Jacob Ramsey's quality on the bench it's really hard to see. I mean, it's weird to see it that, that he's not starting for us in certain games, but I think that's where the rotation comes in. And he's a player that struggles with his fitness and struggle with injuries, and the beauty of being able to ease him back into Premier League football and for him to take to it, like a duck to water again and just be completely fine, sort of perfect to see. And I do agree that I think if Ramsey had that chance, then it is 2-0 that McGinn had. I do agree.
Yeah, I think that the beauty of having Ramsey, Rodgers, McGinn, Bailey, Philogene, you've not only got rotation and depth and substitution ability, you've got, variation and horses for courses. You can, if you're going to boss the ball a bit more and you want more passes and more flair in that front line, you can have Rodgers, Ramsey, McGinn, and then you can use your fullbacks as the width, and you keep the ball a bit more. Or if Rodgers has played, 90 minutes 3 days ago, Ramsey can step in or McGinn's played for like 90 minutes in a row. You can rest him. This is the benefit of having the squad, especially in a Champions League season. So yeah, it's important that we have this sort of quality. And Jack, you know how much I love Jacob Ramsey ever since Jack left, and then Ramsey, that was his breakthrough season, really. Then he was quality from then on, because I never really saw it in him when Jack was still here and he was making the substitute appearances under Dean. He was never really, I don't know, he looked like he was out of place for that half a season that he was being used. But now it's just, I enjoy him as much as I used to watch Grealish, but it's just such a different sort of player. He's not like this tricky, tight space player. He can play in tight spaces, but he's more of this powerhouse. It's like watching a Yaya Toure regen, and it would be nice if he could turn into anything close to that in his prime. So, yeah, I love seeing Ramsey in the starting 11, and I love watching him play football. And I think Emery is a real big fan of him as well. So how we evolve over the rest of the season is just going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's just so exciting to see, isn't it? It's like knowing that we're not. I think a lot of people are sort of. There is a lot of complaint, obviously, always is with Villa, with obviously a lack of awareness maybe in social spheres with us. And a lot of people not really talking about us. I quite like it because I wouldn't want us to be, pegged down as this one style team, because I don't think that's what we're going to be. And I think you're right; it's going to evolve over the season, and different players completely change the aspect of how we play. it's a great win to take. Obviously, we will talk about the upcoming fixture in a minute. I do want to do squad admin, which is our favourite thing to do during transfer season, because AVFC Freds has just led us perfectly into it. He is a player that, shock of all horrors, Tyrone Mings is causing debate within Villa fans. He's been doing it for years since he was a permanent sign-in. Another player that I personally love. He's a lot more of a personal love, that man. Another one I just couldn't imagine ever losing or leaving. AVFC Freds mentioned, when Tyrone Mings comes back, how often do you see him playing? Would he be the first defender substitution or more of a rotation player? That's really going to depend on squad admin time the next 2 weeks, I think, as well. I think it completely changes if you sign Joe Gomez to if you sign Gertruda, or if you don't sign any of them, you keep Carlos. I think it does develop, because we will, in effect, have, no matter what, 3 centre-halves before he comes back. He joins again. I mean, let's be honest. He obviously doesn't start ahead of Pau Torres in your starting 11 that you would say we're doing our nice lineup generators. I don't think, for me anyway, he probably wouldn't get in ahead of him. But Tyrone Mings is still good enough, in my opinion, to start for Aston Villa Football Club in the Premier League, and I think that he will start games this season coming up when he is at full fitness, because Pau Torres is another player that does get injuries and did struggle last season with an injury, and we can't have another season where we've got players playing 30, 35 games when we've got so many coming up. We need to have the rotation. Me personally, I think he's the first defender substitution. I think he is the first out of all the centre-halves you've got, Pau Torres and Ezri Konsa. Say we stick with Diego Carlos, I still think that if one of those centre-halves has to come out, I still think that Tyrone Mings suits our style of play a lot more. And what Diego Carlos brings in aerial presence, I think Tyrone Mings brings twofold. But I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah, I think Mings is basically going to be this season's long lay as soon as he can get fit and ready. Because, and not only that, to be fair, I think if there's games where we want to use a free at the back, for example, if there's games where we're going to face the ball in the box a lot more, he can play as a left back, to be fair. If he can reach fitness and sharpness and form quick enough, it gives us the chance of playing the inversion on the left-hand side more, and then using the right to attack a bit more. If a team's weaker on the left-hand side, say, it gives us more options again. I think he's probably going to be likely to play a cup game first, if we're still in the League Cup by the time he's ready. I think he'll be used off the bench to see games out as well. It's hard to say without knowing what level he's going to be at, because he might not be the same player. He was really athletic before. Not only might it have affected his speed, it might affect his jumping. It might just be a mentality thing now of him thinking that he can't turn as quick or anything. There's so many different factors to it that you have to just ease him in and see where he's at. And if he's close to what he was, then he's going to be so handy to have. And even in the dressing room still, that's the thing with McGinn as well. They have this experience and the know-how that some of the youngsters don't have. That they're smart players, but the players like McGinn and Mings that have been around longer, they know game situations a bit more. So that experience is going to be, really valuable in every competition this season. So I really hope that he can get back up to speed, get up to fitness really quick. Same with Kamara, and then we have options. For different occasions and different games, and gives us a chance to rest players, and hopefully that's going to reduce the amount of injuries in general anyway. So, yeah. Mainly, I'm looking forward to seeing him step back on the pitch at Villa Park. I think he'll get the reception that will be, a bit spine-tingling for people that are there. So, yeah, I hope he's back soon.
Fingers crossed, dude. Wow, judging by the time frame we sort of looked at and have been given, they're never that 100% accurate, but it does look like he could be back for the third round of the Carabao Cup, which would be very exciting, I think, because, he is he's just one of those players, isn't he? He's just one of those that sort of you get quite attached to. Good evening, Sean. Sean Russell joins us. There we are. It's our first repeat viewer of the live podcast. It just makes me proud, James. I'm very proud of us. I'm very proud of what we've built here. As always, if you're watching, make sure you jump on over and of course get involved. We just love chatting. This is how it all came about. We say it every week, just chatting. Squad admin. I'm gonna make a tune for this. I'm gonna make a little theme tune. I'm gonna play it every time we do it. Sort of like the intro. Well, I might have to start singing the intro again, James. You know, since people are watching live, it's unfair they don't hear about it. Exactly, Sean. Chatting about Villa. What more could you want? I could do it all day, every day. I feel sorry for any of my colleagues because the second they mention anything to do with Villa, they're stuck for about half an hour. They get a sort of mini pod, so to speak. They just don't get James. Unlucky for them. Squad admin. In case anyone missed it, we did not sign João Felix. You know, some people really wanted him. Some people didn't. I'm not going to say the opinions on this podcast. It wouldn't be fair. You know, maybe we just didn't want him and didn't care anyway. Who cares? Who wants him? Who cares? You know, I don't care. James, I'm interested to see what you think about this. Are you happy with us not signing another forward this season?
If Emery and Monchi are happy, because it has to be the right player, you know. I think we've got a lot of attacking options, and I think that the forward area is going to be addressed if an opportunity arises. You know, that like with Felix, he costs a lot of money, you know, the wages and the transfer fee that it costs, but it's one of those that he maybe takes you up another level. You know, I had my doubts about him for a couple of reasons, so I weren't too bothered. It would have been, you know, really fun to have him at Villa, but at the same time, I think maybe there's smarter signings out there. It's the same with Sterling for me. Like, I'm a big fan of Sterling as a player, but it has to be right with the money and the pathways that it might block and stuff. So I think in the forward area, it might just be better for us to box a bit smarter financially and spend a bit more money at the back, because I think that's where the top teams, that's where they spend the money first, really.
Yep.
You know, you need your defence to be solid and good on the ball these days. So, yeah, it is what it is for me. I'm hoping that we get defenders in over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm much the same as you. I don't think this is any. It wasn't really an area of concern once we signed Philogene. I wasn't really thinking about it as an area that needs. I think as long as we replace Diaby, which is what we did. Obviously, if Duran was to leave, that's where you'd then be worried. But I agree with you. I know people don't like you saying it at the moment. The whole, you know, trust Unai. But I'm afraid with the signings he's made and what he's doing with the players we've got, I don't see the reason not to trust him when it comes to the transfer market and the decision he makes. Sean, you're saying exactly what James has said. I completely agree. I think the money on the back line is way more important. And let's be fair, that is actually where we need it. We'll get into it. Come on, you've got a choice, Joe Gomez or Gertruda. Where are you going?
Gertruda, I think, because he solves an attacking right-back problem at the same time as a defensive centre-back and right-back issue because of that versatility going forwards as well as at the back. I think that's where I'd go. Joe Gomez is one that I'm also a big fan of, but again, the money that he might take for someone that's not necessarily a starter seems a bit much. I'd probably rather assign Van der Berg from Liverpool in that sense, because I think he'd be half the price, and he's got what, about 5 years on Gomez. I think he's got the potential in him. So it's one of those. I think I'd rather go Gertruda at the moment. But you know how much of a fan of Trevor Chalobah I am. So I wouldn't mind if a deal was struck with him, even though it helps Chelsea out, and fuck that.
Yeah, that's the real problem, isn't it? It's such a 50-50. You don't really want to buy anyone from them, but at the same time, they've got...
Yeah, sure.
Get James Chester back. I'd love nothing more, mate. Get the whole band back together. Why not? I'll tell you what. A quick shout out to a centre half. I don't think gets the recognition he deserves. Nathan Baker. I loved that man.
He's a magic cat.
Yeah. I loved him so much. I don't know why. He obviously did have the colossal head, which helped. But yeah, he's just. I thought he was great. He does wear a magic hat, just as you mentioned. Anyway, just into centre half, loving land now. No, I agree with you. I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because obviously we're also under the impression that we might lose Diego Carlos, but the Fuller move's completely fallen through, so don't really know where that would lie ahead. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, it segues perfectly, thinking about backlines and solid defenses. We had one of our best defensive showings in not one but two games against this Saturday's opponents in Arsenal Football Club. Unai versus Mikel Arteta. Who's the better manager? Who gives a shit? Yeah. All that matters is the football. And what matters is we had a 100% record against this team on Saturday. And I'll tell you what, I'm still shit scared because it's Villa and they will never leave me. No matter what this man does to me, I don't think I'll ever go into a match feeling calm because I think it would be wrong. I think if it ever gets to that point, then there's something else I need to take up because I'll have lost my love for the game because it'd be weird not to be worried. But obviously they had a very good opening game against Wolves. Not that that really matters because Wolves, but it's I think, and look, I might be wrong and it might come back to bite me, but this is my favourite time to play one of these teams.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to what Dantrum said about 20 minutes ago. Fairly confident that Villa will beat Arsenal on Saturday, but also trying to keep calm at the same time. That's the same that I'm feeling. I think it's because it's first home game of the season. You can catch a team cold in a sense if they're not ready, which Arsenal most likely are going to be ready.
Yeah.
Top side. I've got them down for winning the league this season, which might change now City are signing Gundogan. But anyway, that's going off track. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it'll be relatively high scoring. A 3-1, 3-2, 2-2, something like that. I think it's riding the wave of the West Ham results still, and first home game of the season. I say it's just always got a nice feeling to it. I think I've got to back a Villa win. I've got to, and I think it's just one of those games that Watkins is scoring in. He does well against the big six, even we're top six. So it's one of those games where I think he's going to bag his first goal of the season. I would not mind the hat trick at all either.
No, I'm with you on that. Sean mentions he was more confident for the game against Arsenal and West Ham. I'll tell you what, when I looked at the first opening three fixtures, I put us down for 6 points and I put our wins against Leicester and I put our win against Arsenal. I thought, if anything, we were losing on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a bogey team and I do back us at home. I mean, I think it's so hard to forget that we went so long unbeaten at home under Unai Emery. It's weird to think that was actually, I know it ran over 2 seasons, but obviously, you can't mistake the fact that we were very strong at home. All right, we teetered off towards the end of the season, but that wasn't really a surprise considering what was going on. It's we all know why we don't like playing Arsenal. It's nothing to do with Arsenal Football Club. It's to do with people that follow Arsenal Football Club because it's painful leading up to it. It's painful afterwards. But I'm with you. I've explained this to people. I along with many other people, lovers of fantasy Premier League and obsessed with putting as many Villa players as I can in. I will always have 3 in. People just saying to me, got to take Ollie Watkins out. He's not going to do it this season. They're going to rue it on Saturday because that man loves playing Arsenal. Apparently, he's an Arsenal fan. I don't know what sort of sick love he's into, but he loves absolutely decimating that club whenever he plays. He plays out of his skin any chance he gets to. And I for one, just can't wait to watch it, really. So I am with you. I think we're going to squeeze it. I'm actually going to go with a 1-0 Ollie Watkins header. I think it's going to be a bit like the home game from last season where we're scoring the first half and just see the game out. I don't think it'll be like Man City where it's like completely easy. I still think we'll do a lot of defending, but I just think we're going to be solid and I think we are going to be quite lucky that Arsenal are going to have just not hit their, when these teams start winning 3 or 4 games in a row, then that's when they start like decimating clubs. I think we're quite lucky that it was 2-0 against Wolves. Looking back at the highlights, Wolves should have scored at least one, if not two. So I think they missed a couple of really good chances. Cunha missed a really good chance as well. So, it's not like Arsenal are some sort of invincible club. That they're really not. They're a very good football side with a very good defence. But I do think still that Emery obviously does have a certain way that playing that works well against Arsenal. And when you've got, Emi Martinez, Ezri Konsa, now we've got Onana, now we've got Leon Bailey and Jacob Ramsey and Morgan Rogers and Emi Buendia and John Duran. He loves Villa so much and we love him so much. And, there's never a man more committed than John Duran. And obviously we've got Ollie Watkins. So it's hard not to feel, let's call it quiet confidence, shall we? Because we're not out here saying we're going to beat them 4-0. They're not even hard. It's going to be a tough game, but we're not going to continue being the successful club we are if we're not going to, win or draw these home games against the Sky Six, should we call them? So, yeah, and I'm with you, Sean. There's a certain fan TV that I don't mind seeing them get a little bit upset, and a little bit angry, and trying to debate how certain managers aren't better than certain managers. It's hard to watch, but it's sort of one of the, like, I don't know if people have seen the Jermaine Genius video of him drinking the pint in the pub. Go on then. It's hard to watch, but you sort of have to, because you've got to feel human and you've got to give yourself that pain.
Yeah.
Or just listening to Jermaine Genius in general, I guess. But it rings true, I think, in the mind. But I can't wait, James.
Yeah. Just quickly, I also genuinely dislike Arsenal Football Club because they employ a rapist as well. But I look forward to these games. The big sides at Villa Park. I think it's always got that feeling of it there. Because when you beat a top side, it is just it's what you love watching football for, because it's supposed to be the toughest test. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is. So I think it just has that extra edge to it when you win one of these games, and especially the position that we're in now. We do tend to beat the sides that we're meant to beat in as well. So it's just us being competitive in every game that we can. So I think that it's going to be a game about winning the ball in midfield a lot and then turning them over, which is where obviously we expect Onana to be big again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Another late kickoff. I was going to say Villa Park under the lights. It might be by the end of the game nowadays. It's bloody dark.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, and we did our rankings last season, but it's top 3 match kickoffs for me, and I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, not Sean. No, I wish I was, but that's just not viable anymore. I don't know if James is with me on this, but it gets to a point where when you're not a season ticket holder, I think it was looking at the ticket I wanted, it was 75 quid, and there's travel involved. That's popping up to over 120 quid for one game. So it's so hard. I don't think you're going, James, unless this might be some sort of surprise announcement, like a.
No, I was looking into it though. But again, for me, it was the cost of it again. But especially with daughter's birthdays coming up and stuff, like a lot of money. But I am, I'll be going to a game as soon as I can afford it soon. Hopefully, it's in the next couple of months, even if it's a cup game or something. I need to be back there.
Yeah, we aim to get up there as much as we can. I was quite lucky. I was a season ticket holder for 4 years, the worst 4 years of our club's recent history, mind you. But I was there, I guess. And we do try to go up every couple of months if possible. Yeah, you're right. If drinking becomes expensive, and I cannot resist a self-pour pint. I just can't. I feel very cool when I do it, especially when you watch someone absolutely top it before you, and you go in and just smoothly do it. There's no greater feeling, I don't think. Who knows? You might get the first ever live meeting of Dan and James, because we've only been 6 rows apart, is the closest we've ever been, believe it or not. It's our 2nd year, actually. Happy 2-year anniversary, James.
Happy anniversary.
It's quite strange that we've been doing this for 2 years now. So it's an exciting time. I can't wait to be back. I'm quite like that. I quite like going to either a cup game or a nighttime game. I don't know why. It's just something about being at the when I went to that Conference League first leg of the semi-final last year, this quarter-final, sorry. That might be one of my favourite nights of all time. Just seeing it in the dark haze, And I was one of the first games actually. I looked at the whole end from the side, and just it's hard not to enjoy. I can see why people like sitting up in the Trinity and stuff in the wind now. So, can't wait. Get me to Saturday now. Who wants Thursday and Friday? Who wants that? Saturday, 5:30, wherever you choose to watch it. If you're watching it at home, at a pub, at Villa Park, just enjoy it, man. It's back. International break in a couple of weeks, sure, but yeah, it's the price you have to pay. I agree. It'll be one of those weekends, I call it, is where you find anything you can do but sit in front of the telly, because it just hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We won't end it on that though. We're going to end it on our final predictions. Obviously, I've gone 1-0. James, did you settle on a score in the end?
2-1.
2-1. I love it. We got any score predictions for anyone in the chat? We will do those while I do my fun little outro. Everyone loves the outro. Sean Warsell's got 6-0. I'll tell you what, if we win 6-0, I'll find any way I can to drive up to Birmingham myself or get driven and hang around any AFTV cameras around there the whole night. I will not be left until I am removed. That will be something to see. Dandrum goes 2-1 Villa. James, you see, as soon as someone matches you, I start thinking I need to match you. But no, Sean's gone 1-1. I get a lot of people backing us can see it. I completely understand that, to be honest. I just think, I don't know what, just think about last year. I think we're better than we are last year. I don't know why. I don't think in one game, but
yeah, I think we're a much different side, and I think that might play into our hands as well. So I think it's, as I said, it's going to be key about the middle of the park, and I think that Onana presence is going to. Onana versus Rice would be a really nice duel. So,
yeah,
let's see what happens.
I just also think as well, neutralise Saka, neutralise, I think, a large portion of what they rely on as well. So if we can double up on him, and that's where I think the likes of John McGinn really help. But I cannot wait. Let's get into it. If you are watching on YouTube, Spotify, make sure you like, rate, enjoy the podcast. Please comment, join in on the Q&A discussion. And obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you do hit the bell. It makes all the difference, because who knows when you're going to get it. James is raising his eyebrows because all he wants me to say is anything that is an innuendo to the bell. James, it's coming, but I need to see that first home win first, I'm afraid. It needs to spark it within me. In all seriousness, it matters so much to us when you do hit the notification bar. It means you don't miss any uploads. And obviously head over to Twitter at AVFC Faithful Pod. You got at Dan_Clarkey, and James, I always get yours wrong. I'm gonna have to say it, I'm afraid. At the Holt 1874. Thank you, because I always miss out the, and it takes me ages to do the description on YouTube. Make sure you follow us all on over there as well. If you're not following James, you're missing out on some of the best threads in Villa Twitter. If you're not following me, you're missing out on someone having an absolute meltdown anytime Villa play. And a lot of non-deleted tweets from all four takes, such as Ollie Watkins isn't good enough for Villa. I'll out myself. I'm not afraid to say it. I've said it. Other people have said it. Deleting is cheating, is what I say, though. You'll never catch a deleted tweet on my account unless I misspell something. In all seriousness, though, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. And as always, check out playback.tv. Please come follow us on over there. Get involved on the podcast. As long as you've got notifications on, join the room. Become a member. It's completely free. You can join in on the chat. Like Dandrum, Sean, HATV has, AVFC Freds, and we had Mikey last week as well. We're really excited to have you guys joining. It's what we're all about here. It's why we're here. So until next time, up the Villa. Up the Villa.